Hi everyone, and welcome to another installment of our open house series. My name is Doug and I am an advisor here at Berklee Music, and today I have the privilege of being joined by Annie Clements.
Hi.
Annie is an alumni of the Berklee College of Music and is currently studying with us online. She has been the touring bassist for country superstar Sugarland for the last 7 years and has also sung and played bass on several of their recorded tracks, and has also appeared on stage alongside the members of the Eagles, the Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, and Queen. I believe that was at Wembley.
Yes.
And when not on the road, she works for Sorted Noise, recording and building band brands. And in her free time, she likes to teach and occasionally writes for Bass Player magazine. Annie, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So today what we're going to do, for those of you who haven't seen one of these before, is we're going to start things off with about 20 minutes of discussion, and then we'll open it up to question and answers. So if you guys have any questions out there, be sure to type them into the chat, and we'll get them, and we'll go to questions towards the end.
Cool.
All right, sounds good. So I mentioned that you graduated from Berklee, which is awesome. Now I know a lot of, myself included, you graduate college and then it's kind of like, all right, now what?
Yeah.
Especially as a musician. So,
yeah.
I mean, what did you do to really kind of get started on your career as a musician?
Yeah, well, it's always what now? And I definitely had a what now moment myself when I graduated, and I moved home, moved back in with Mom. Hi, Mom, if you're watching. So, I moved back home. I just kind of jumped into the scene in New Orleans. I was fortunate in that my dad is a well-known guitar player down there, so he was, able to sort of lay some groundwork for me to just kind of step into working with a lot of people in town. So, really, just calling friends. I jumped on a tour with an old friend named Teresa Anderson, and that was kind of the starting point. So she had just gotten signed to a local label, and I just started, in the van, touring with her and traveling around, and it was hard work. You're gone for, sometimes a couple months at a time. I was a terrible driver, probably still am. A lot of people aren't impressed with my driving skills. So instead of driving the van, I would be in charge of selling the merchandise. And, everybody kind of has to pull their weight, help out in some way. So that was my job. And, in between tours, I worked at my stepdad's law office in the library. Just like, I think it's really, really critical for all musicians starting out. You have to find another avenue for revenue. You can't always just rely on gigs. It takes a while to build your portfolio, to build your resume. So that was a perfect job because I could make my own hours and I could just kind of show up when I was in town, and they would let me jump in and do my filing work, and I could listen to my iPod and be listening to music also during the day, working on stuff while I was working there. So I know a lot of musicians who park cars, or maybe wait tables, sort of these jobs where you can kind of come and go. So you got to do it.
I watched electronics for like 6 months.
What?
Yeah.
How does that even work?
It was terrible, but it paid the bills while I was working on a lot of other things.
That's right.
I think that's definitely crucial
to
be able to pay your bills and put food on the table
Yes.
and pay rent.
Yes.
And sometimes gigs are tough to come by.
Yeah.
So through that extensive the touring and networking, is that how the whole Sugarland opportunity come up?
Yeah, I was touring with Teresa. I did that for about 1.5 years, and that was how I had the opportunity to do the show at Wembley, where I got to play with all those guys. It was the 50th anniversary of the Stratocaster, so they had Brian May and David Gilmour and Joe Walsh. Ron Wood was there. I mean, it was just like insane. So, and that's still huge for me. They still show that concert on Palladia, and once a month it seems like they show it, and I get new fans on my site. I looked you up, I saw the show. So yeah, that's still paying massive dividends, and was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It was amazing. But through doing that, I got hooked up with another band, the Sons of William, who are still one of my all-time favorite bands that I've ever worked with. And playing with them, people just started taking notice and just asking me to play on their stuff, and that was how I ended up with the Sugarland gig. I was out on tour with them, and another bass player happened to be in the audience, and his name was Dave Labriere, and he played with John Mayer for many years. So turns out we were from the same hometown. He just said, hey, after a show, we got to chatting, like, oh, you live in Metairie, Louisiana? That's weird. I live in Metairie. And, you just meet people and you make friends. We struck up a genuine friendship, just hanging out, riding bikes around town, doing our thing. He was off the road because Mayer was doing the trio thing. So his regular touring band was kind of on a break. So we hung out for like a year and a half. And then Christian Bush of Sugarland called him saying, do you have any recommendations for this gig? And he said, I think my friend Annie might be a good fit. So very organic. It wasn't really so much pounding the pavement or trying to get something going as just living life and playing the music I love to play, and somebody noticed.
Now, I mean, obviously that's a fantastic gig, but they're not always on the road. They're not always
That's right.
touring. So it's important to have other stuff going on, and this kind of ties back to when you first got your start, working at the law firm and everything. Mm-hmm. So when you're not, being a rock star, what do you have going on?
Well, I do a lot of different things, and I really emphasize that to everybody. When you get something going and it's working really well and you feel like you're at the peak of it all, that's when you pivot and you start looking for the next thing, because things change, and especially with a touring musician, you have seasons where you're working a lot and then seasons where you're not doing a lot. So one of the things, my now husband, he had started a production company, so I started working over there, doing a lot of background singing, maintaining their blog, and things really picked up tremendously over there. We do a lot of custom work for film and TV. So that's something that keeps both of us really busy when we're not on the road. And that's, you gotta have all those other irons in the fire. That's a big one. I've recently started teaching in Nashville, which has been a lot of fun. So when I'm home, I have a few students, and I do that as well. So, man, you just have to keep a lot of different things going, because you have to be prepared for what's next. So
how do you manage all these things? Because
I keep getting that question. It's like, I'm not really sure. I hope I'm doing a good job. It's a lot. It's a lot to keep up with. The biggest thing is staying on people's radars, maintaining friendships and relationships. Facebook is a great way to do that, to stay connected with people. In Nashville especially, there are some really great songwriter-hosted events that, a songwriter will put together a weekly jam at a bar, and everybody just goes. So if you're looking to get in on the Nashville scene, you go there first, because everyone's going to be there. Just a lot of that type of stuff, going out, playing around, doing your thing, and you just kind of keep up with everybody. So, and with my students, I'm, usually just the way Nashville bands tend to tour is on the weekends. So I'm generally home Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So I have all my students on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and I can keep it somewhat consistent that way. So
nice. Now, you mentioned Facebook, and I know you have a really solid presence on there.
Awesome. Facebook.
How have you? What kind of approaches have you taken to? You said it's a great tool. How have you really maintained? Kind of engagement with your fans and everything. What are some of the things you like to do on there?
It's it's hard to keep up with it. Just as far as I try to post something every day. I actually started working with a great guy, Chris Cohen, who has been helping me with my social media stuff. So when we're touring heavily, he's going and getting pictures, and he's like, look at these pictures at a Fender. That's awesome, post it. So he helped me a lot during the really, really busy season. And but basically I'm just living my life, if I see something that's funny, or I've started a couple things where I have like days where I do certain things. So now on Sundays, I always post a Sunday quote, and just something that's funny or interesting to me. And it helps me, it reminds me like, okay, it's Sunday. Like, I got to get my quote, I got to track that down. So And Monday, a lot of times on Monday, I call it Magic Merch Monday, where I'll post something, I'll hashtag it Magic Merch Monday if it's something from my online store or just some other product or thing that I'm interested in. Somebody released a great record I want to share with everybody. So kind of coming up with these sort of built-in systems for keeping me inspired and keeping me on target with keeping people who are interested updated on what I'm doing. Yeah.
Now, I know you're on the road a lot, and you also study with us online, which is really cool. You've taken a few courses now.
Yeah, I've taken a bunch of courses.
And have you done that while traveling?
Yeah.
Because I know we have a lot of students that they have that sort of they're on the road with their band all the time, or touring with like a production company for like a theater show or something. And sometimes they're a little hesitant about doing it because they're on the road.
Man.
But like,
that's the perfect time to take a class. Now that our Sugarland tour wrapped up in September, so now I find now that I'm in what I call real life, it's harder to find the time because there's so many things that I'm juggling and keeping up with. But when you're on the road, it's perfect because you have downtime during the day. You're just hanging out in the dressing room or doing whatever. It's the perfect time to spend 30, 45 minutes, working on your classwork, and you do that every day and you've knocked it out. So, depending on how many classes you're taking, I usually take 2 at a time, and that's kind of about the max that I can keep up with if I want to do a good job. But I've gotten so much out of it. When I was here, I was just strictly a performance major, so I really wanted to take some business classes, some marketing classes to help me with my own career personally and the work that I was doing at Sorted Noise. So it just fit in perfectly for me to just take time in the dressing room to sit there on my laptop, and it was fun. People would come in like, you doing homework? Like, oh, that's interesting, And so it was, everybody in the band ended up, me and Thad and Brandon and Travis too ended up taking some courses. So we all got into it. It was great.
Nice. Nice, very cool. So when you were on campus as a performance major, were you getting into any of the business stuff, or is that come later on?
I mean, only as much as I sort of had to figure out on my own, I'm really sort of in the realm of promotion. So I had a couple bands that I played with, and this is like back in the day before you had all these great programs to put together flyers, on Mac computers and stuff. We'd be going to Copy Cop. I don't know if that's even still here, if that's what it's called, but putting together, cutting out pictures that you took with your camera, and you got them all developed at the store, and you hope one of them turned out decently. I mean, it was crazy. You had to do a lot of work physically to put together something that looked attractive that you might want to stick up on a wall somewhere. So, it's just, I did a lot of that type of stuff, trying to figure out how to promote yourself within the community and that sort of thing. But I didn't really, I didn't take really any business type of classes. I wish I had. So it was really great to be able to come back and just understand all these different aspects of the industry, and I get a lot of questions from people. Somebody just asked me last week. She was like, "Well, what happens in a record deal? How does that work?" I was like, "It's really complicated." But if you really want to know, I highly recommend going to Berklee Music online and trying to get some understanding of it. So, yeah, it's been great for me.
I mean, how has it really helped you? I mean, as a performer, you looked at it and you thought, I really need to know this business that I'm in. And
I mean, every musician, in my opinion, is their own small business. You're your own little corporation. So you have to understand how to run your business. You have to understand how to promote yourself. And with, like the marketing class I took, it really breaks it down for you step by step. So many people will graduate from a school like Berklee or any school, and think, okay, now I'm done. Now it's time to be on the cover of Rolling Stone. Like, no, now it's time to start building your email list, and putting together, your small core group of fans and expanding outwardly from there, and letting, getting some people that really believe in you and care about you and connecting with them and encouraging and inviting them to help spread the word. So it really can take you step by step through, you know, here's some things that are really going to help you. And it helped me a lot, you know, just staying focused, because I've got a lot of different things that I'm doing.
Totally.
So helping me come up with more of a strategic vision for each thing and some real tactics to go after those things, for sure.
Now, you mentioned email lists, and so I'm going to get a little specific here, because I know a big thing that's been going on, and anybody who's following music business or has a Facebook band page or anything like that knows a lot of things have changed with band pages, and it's a lot harder to get people to see the things that you're posting there without spending money.
Yeah, it's driving me crazy.
Now, I mean, that's, I feel like, where the email list can really come big time into play, because you know, if you're emailing somebody, they're actually, you know, going to be going and getting that email and opening it, versus you know, you're taking a roll of the dice with the Facebook post. So I mean, do you continue to build your mailing list and everything?
I just sent out, I don't do it often. I probably send a newsletter out maybe once a quarter. I don't want to bombard people with stuff, you know, and I have the Facebook if they want to come and see on a daily basis, you know, what I'm doing. But the way I've sort of built my email list, I take a lot of it from people who've placed online orders, you know, so I get to know people. And like you said, it's very personal. And in my address book, I make a note of things like, okay, this is Dave Bodmer. Hi, if you're watching, you know, and he's got his daughters, Megan and Katie, and, you know, they're an awesome family, and you really do get to know people. Like, you get to know them for real. They're not just some sort of nameless, faceless situation. So, you know, you just take notes about what they do and what they're interested in, and I have it all cataloged in my address book. So when I send someone, you know, a package, I can write a personal note in there to them. And I have, you know, I don't have a massive email list, but I have real fans, you know, real champions. At least I feel that way. I love them. Yeah, it's definitely critical, I think, to build real. You're better off having 20 people who really love you and believe in you than, you know, 200 people that are just kind of like, I like you, you know, see you in 6 months, whatever.
Right. I mean, I feel like, you know, you click like on a Facebook page and it can be a very passive action. You know, you click it and you don't have to ever think about it again. And especially with the changes, you might never see it in your newsfeed again. So that, I mean, I think that's so cool that you sent, when somebody orders something, you put a little note, like in personal. I mean, that's a huge touch. I think that's fantastic.
Well, that's where the fun is for me, for sure, is interacting with people and getting to know people, and that's the whole point for me. So I love it.
Cool. Well, it looks like we have a bunch of questions coming in. If you want to switch gears and take some questions. Cool. So we have somebody asking about advice for moving to and living and working as a musician in Nashville.
Okay. Well, like I mentioned earlier, some of these songwriter nights, I think it's Monday nights at the Whiskey Kitchen. They call it the Whiskey Jam, and that's one of those nights everybody's there. I think Wednesdays during the middle of the day, songwriter Bobby Pinson has a thing going on. Basically, just take all your favorite country records, turn them over, see who wrote the songs, and start Googling those people, because they're all in town and they're all accessible. So, and that's where everyone's hanging out at these songwriter jams. So look that stuff up, just start going around. And it's funny, I don't write very much, but that's the thing in Nashville. So you meet someone for the first time, you don't say, oh, we should go get coffee. It's, oh, we should write together. So, you know, be prepared for some of that. Another thing in Nashville is church. You know, faith-based communities are really prevalent there, so you can meet a lot of people that way too. There's a lot of those communities that are really supportive and welcoming. So, but yeah, that's the big thing, is sort of going to some of these, you know, jam nights and meeting people and writing with people. That's a great way to get established. If you're looking for a place to live, lots of people are living in East Nashville. That's kind of the hipster place to live. I would not recommend living in Antioch, which is where I moved to when I first moved to town, which was kind of a disaster. So, yeah, stay away from that neighborhood. It's real cheap. Yeah, open the newspaper and, $350 a month for a 1-bedroom? Like, ooh, that sounds great. Like,
Too good to be true.
I'm scared. So yeah, that'd be my advice.
Awesome. Sydney has a question, and I want to know, what is your favorite thing about touring?
Oh man, catering. If I'm going to be honest, I mean, it's all great. With Sugarland, we have been super spoiled. We have this amazing catering service that travel with us, so it's just the best. It's top of the line. That's the hardest part about touring is if you're not traveling with somebody who's preparing healthy food for you, delicious, excellent food. I love you. I miss you. You're eating at gas stations, and I mean, I love Cracker Barrel as much as the next person, but it's harder to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So that's definitely one of the perks of my gig is that awesome stuff. And, just getting to do my job with the people I love. I mean, can't ask for more than that. So.
Totally. I think there's actually there's an iPhone app for healthy eating on the road, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I believe so. I want to say it's called In Bloom.
Uh-huh.
And it's like a location-based thing, and it goes in and it finds like healthy alternatives for you.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, especially if you're like a vegetarian or vegan or something, it'll find, cafes and stuff that are friendly and
oh, that's great.
So you don't end up eating from the dollar menu, 3 meals a day or something.
Yeah.
All right. Adam wants to know if you have any advice for musicians that are trying to get into the international level.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that question. I mean, with Sugarland, we've done some touring internationally, but country music doesn't always necessarily translate over there. It just kind of depends. So, I mean, I guess that would just be like the biggest of the big. But I mean, for me, I get the question a lot of how do you make it? For me, I really believe in just being yourself, and I believe that talent, shines through. You take someone like Jennifer Nettles, she's a star. Mm-hmm. She was always going to be a star. And so sometimes, there's not a path necessarily that I can say, do this, that, and the other, and you'll be amazing. I just feel like it comes, if it's right.
So here's a Berklee specific question.
All right.
And you're in a pretty unique situation to answer. It's perfect. What's your favorite thing about Berklee online classes versus your Berklee campus classes?
Well, I love. They're both really great. What I like about, I think, the Berklee Online class is being able to read everyone else's homework and look at everyone else's assignments. And it's so interesting to have that opportunity to kind of see, what other people from all around the world are thinking and interpreting, and musically what they're doing. Everybody's so different. Everybody has a totally different life experience. And it's really, really amazing to be able to just go through all these feeds and get all this different input. It's really, really interesting and illuminating. So that would be the best. I can see what you wrote in your essay that normally in normal class you would have just handed over, but now I get to read it too. So
that's cool. I know on campus we have a really, really diverse population, but mm-hmm. there's something completely different about thinking, when you're in a live chat with your teacher, mm-hmm. that, people in that class are on a completely different side of the planet than you are at that exact moment.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's easy to make connections that way too.
Totally. I've made a ton of connections through the website. What is it, endorsing, or is that the LinkedIn thing? I try to think, what do you call it? what do y'all call it
I
on
think
the online? Is
it
it endorsed?
yeah, and
Okay.
you give us a little thumbs up.
Yes. Yeah. So I've met a ton of people that way. A lot of people that are interested in collaborating on things, and you can do it from all over the world, anywhere you are in the world. So it's awesome. It's a great networking opportunity as well.
All right, we got another one asking for advice on building your online presence.
Okay.
And how do you keep in touch with all those people? You mentioned your
I
mailing
want to
list.
see who's asking the questions. I wonder if it's anyone I know. I don't know. Berklee Brian. Are you not allowed to say it out loud?
Brian's actually the one feeding me the question, so that came from Andre.
Okay.
Andres.
Okay, repeat the question again. Sorry, I got sidetracked.
What's your advice on how to build an online presence? How do you keep in touch with all the people on the internet that might be interested in your music? And I know we covered the mailing list thing already.
Yeah, totally. I really, I try to be really positive and super upbeat and just, but real, not totally Looney Tunes. But, just try and give people something that is of value to them. I don't really post a lot of posts about what I ate for breakfast, although sometimes I do because I ate a candy apple for breakfast a couple weeks ago.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's an apple, so
it is. It's
technically.
Good.
But just stuff that people are interested in, and it is always interesting to get these questions and find out things that I think are interesting aren't necessarily interesting to somebody else. But it just depends on what's valuable to you and what type of audience you want to build. Maybe you're a big gearhead and you write reviews about gear, or you can sort of become a hub for a certain thing. I think my thing is kind of like the musician next door. I try to be just normal, and people are always fascinated, like, you do laundry? Like, yes. So just kind of sharing my insight from the road and how life works out there, and that's what's been interesting to people who want to tune in and follow me and what I'm doing. But yeah, I don't post anything political or religious. I don't really post about relationships. I don't, because really your social media is an online living, breathing resume. Mm-hmm. And that's the first thing. When I was recommended for the Sugarland gig, Christian went to my MySpace page, remember that? And if I had had a bunch of pictures up there of me like boozing around in some bar or doing something crazy, I wouldn't have even gotten the call in the first place. So I really recommend that people are careful with it and don't use it as a personal dumping ground for your problems or, vague booking. I love this term, vague booking. Don't do that. That's when you post something because you clearly want people to, say, are you having a bad day? Sort of these vague, like, there's really only so many people in the world you can trust. Like, what are you saying? Like, what? No, I'm not. You can't bait me into doing that. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked, but don't do that. Yeah, probably more tips on what not to do than what to do, but hopefully that's helpful.
Awesome. So I know you. One of the classes you took was Future of Music.
Yes.
And music business.
Yes.
And I'm sure since you took that, even more stuff has
it's
changed.
Crazy.
So what are you taking into account as you move forward, going into the future? What are your plans?
Well, I mean, the big thing, especially that we're seeing in Nashville, is sort of the shifting of the record label structure, mm-hmm. and as the ones that were left are now sort of falling and merging together, and it's a scary time. I have a lot of friends that work at labels, and it's a scary time in a lot of respects, and it's also an exciting time, for now. That's not necessarily everyone's path. You don't need a major label to have the success of somebody that might be on a major label anymore. So just figuring out what's next. And I'm seeing especially with our production company with Sword and Noise, we are you know, you need aspects of some of that stuff. Like there's still really no way you can get radio airplay unless you're on a major label. So then the question becomes, do I need radio airplay? What can I do to force the radio stations to play my music? You know, what can I build on my own online to where there's now a demand for it? You know, with my live show, with my fan base. So thinking more in those terms instead of thinking like, I gotta get a deal and what am I gonna do to get a deal? Like just focusing on doing what you're doing and doing it really well, and then letting that stuff come to you if you even need it at this point. You may not. So yeah, it was a really interesting class, and yeah, like you said, so much has changed even since I took that class, and I think it was 2010.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
Spotify.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Music flowing like water.
Mm-hmm.
It's out there.
Yeah,
It's coming.
it's now. It's happening.
Well, believe it or not, time has flown by.
What?
It has.
Nobody even asked me what my favorite color was.
I'll ask you. What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Any particular shade of purple?
That's a hard question.
Because my favorite color is blue, and my favorite shade happens to be cerulean blue.
I've never even heard of that.
Best crayon in the Crayola box. Check it out.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'll look into that. Thanks.
Well, Annie, thank you so much for being here.
Hey,
I
thank
really
you, Doug.
appreciate
I
it. This has
appreciate
been a lot
it.
of fun.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody that tuned in. If you have any questions at all about studying online or anything, feel free to give us a call at 1-866-BERKLEY. All of our advisors are here. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Or you can shoot us an email, advisors@berkleemusic.com.